Welcome. In today's demonstration of the Prophecy IoT system, I'm going to demonstrate the use and creation of an aggregation. I'm already logged into the Prophecy application, so let's go here to aggregations or down here in the lower right to add an aggregation. I will click the new button to add a new aggregation and I'll give it a name. Let's call it Demo Aggregation 1. And the description, demonstrate an aggregation. All right. Now you notice here, there's a checkbox that says trigger events. In this recording, I'm going to leave that unchecked, but in a future recording, I will demonstrate how checking this box and naming a webhook can create external action with an aggregation. So what is an aggregation? Simply put, a Prophecy aggregation monitors the machine tags from the data acquisition engine of Prophecy, and when particular conditions as defined in the aggregation occur, a record is written to an aggregation log. That aggregation log can be used for analytic later on, or as briefly mentioned, can be used to trigger a webhook or both. So what happens in an aggregation? Well, within one condition group, when multiple tags are defined, those create an AND condition. When multiple groups are created, that creates an OR condition between the groups. So let me show you what I mean. Let's take condition group 1 and let's add a tag. The tag that I want to use here to trigger the aggregation to be evaluated is called machine 1 alarm condition. So here it is. Machine 1 alarm condition. I'm going to have the aggregation engine evaluate the value parameter of that tag, and that particular parameter is a string data type. So what condition will I monitor? At first, I'm going to monitor a condition value called low feed override, but I'm not going to perform any transformation. Now, if machine 1 alarm condition, as the machine is running, equals the low feed override condition value, this will become true inside the aggregation engine. So what I may want to do is, when this condition is true, collect a couple of other pieces of information that get written out into the aggregation log. So let's gather the machine 1 operator ID, because in this case, the operator would be the person who has changed the feed override setting. So that's manually done by an operator. Again, the operator ID is stored in the value parameter of the tag, and that operator ID happens to be a float. All right, I'm not going to monitor or check any condition, and I'm not going to do any transformation. I simply want to know who the operator is whenever this condition turns true. Now, let's add a second group. So in the second group, I'm going to add the machine 1 alarm condition again, only this time, again, it's a parameter type string. I'm going to choose a different condition from a predefined list, and we're going to say coolant pump disabled, high PSI. So let me copy that into my aggregation, and I'm going to say that it equals this condition. All right, I'm not going to do any transformation on that, but I do want to collect some additional information, because a high pressure alarm on machine one is actually triggered by the machine itself and not by a human, I want to know a couple of things here. So let's collect the operator ID again, who was running it at the time. And again, as we showed in the previous example, this is a float. Let's also collect the machine one job that was running at the time, because that might be significant. So there's the job ID, and I know ahead of time that's a string. So now, if I save this aggregation, what's going to happen is this. If the aggregation engine detects a low feed override on machine one alarm condition, it will write a row with this value and the machine one operator ID value. Otherwise, or if the aggregation engine detects that the machine one alarm condition is coolant pump disabled, high pressure, it will ignore the first condition group, but honor the second condition group and write a row in the aggregation log that contains the machine one alarm condition value, the machine one operator ID value, and the machine one job ID value. So in this example, then I've created a set of OR conditions. Let me cancel out of this. Let me just remove these back out and show you a different way that this could be accomplished. Let's say instead of checking for each individual alarm, we simply check for all alarms. Now, in this case, when using a double negative, if you will, when machine one alarm condition equals anything except the value no alarms, this condition becomes true. So I can collect all the information I need with this one test. So let's collect the operator ID. Let's collect the job ID, which we mentioned before, and we know that that's a string. And let's also collect the machine name, just so whoever looks at this data doesn't have to go and look up the machine name. It'll be right there in front of them. And we know that that's also a string. All right, now, when I save this, the prophecy system will immediately begin monitoring machine one alarm condition. It will write a row into the monitoring table every few seconds, every 1 second to be exact, and the aggregation engine will look at the past 30 seconds of activity to determine how many times this condition became true. It will log a row to the aggregation logging table every time the condition changes from false to true. So in a situation where we start out and the value of machine one alarm condition is no alarms, and it stays that way for 10 minutes, nothing is going to trigger this aggregation. But then all of a sudden, we get a low spindle override. That's any one of the conditions that does not equal no alarms. And at that point, the aggregation engine will write a row with the alarm one condition and the data that triggered it. So it would be low spindle override, the operator ID, the job ID, and the machine name. If that condition stays in the true state for 10 or 15 more minutes, nothing else will happen. Only when the machine one alarm condition goes back to the value of no alarms and then changes again to something other than no alarms, will a new aggregation trigger occur and a row written to the aggregation log. That's the end of this recording. In future recording, we're going to describe triggering events. We're going to describe webhooks, and we're going to describe a little more about transformation. If you have any questions, please email us at the web address on the Prophecy IoT website. Thank you and have a good day.